Hey up, welcome back to the old Bingley Wheeler garage. Ooh, now then, what am I going to talk about today? I'm going to talk about modern classic motorcycles and whether they are the exclusive purview of more mature ladies and gentlemen, shall I say, like my good self, and whether they represent a good option if you're looking to scale down from perhaps a number of years of riding bigger, more powerful bikes, or indeed if you're looking at scaling up, having just passed your test or having just returned to motorcycling after a few years of absence. Where does this bike fit in? So it's probably appropriate to take a look at this motorcycle now, the Royal Enfield Classic 650, because recently, of course, I had a look at my Royal Enfield Classic 350 and did draw a number of conclusions about that bike's suitability for the same categories of riders that I've just described. And yeah, absolutely it does, in my opinion, and I hold to that view. All I would say is that's a bike you've got to ride with a certain mindset, because you're not going to be executing blistering overtakes with it. You're not going to be sitting at 70 mile an hour on a motorway for hours on end with that bike. So you have to have the right expectations. But if the name of your game is bimbling around the countryside or doing a bit of urban commuting, Classic 350, absolutely a perfect choice. But if you're looking for something a little bit more, you might want to be thinking about the Classic 650. Now, I think these bikes, these modern classics, obviously have more an appeal to readers and viewers, rather, riders of my sort of age group. I'm 63, and I can just about remember as a kid when my dad was motorcycling, when these bikes, ancestors if you like, under British badges, were being ridden in the 60s and 70s in this country, in good old Blighty. Aye, so they have a more of an appeal to older riders, these bikes, though not exclusively so. Now, yeah, Classic 650. What can we say about this bike, particularly by way of comparison with its smaller sibling, the Classic 350? Well, we're up from 20 brake horsepower to 47 brake horsepower, so that's a significant increase in overall power. However, it's right on the threshold of the A2 license compatibility. So yeah, if you are an A2 license holder, which would normally be a much younger rider, then yeah, this bike is compatible, 47 brake horsepower. And probably would max out at just under 100 mile an hour, I would say, this bike. But the key thing to say about this bike is that its weight belies its physical size and appearance. So this bike weighs in wet at 243 kilograms, which, would you believe, is the same weight as the BMW R1300 now GS. So quite a hefty bike, and that is due in no small part to the fact that the majority of the components on this bike are good quality metal, whereas on other bikes there will probably be plastic. So that's where your weight comes from, but it really does add to a quality feel of this here bike. And it's a beautiful thing to look at in this black and chrome colourway, which to my way of thinking is the most authentic for the period which this bike is seeking to emulate. You can also get these in Vallon Red, which is a sort of claret and cream colour scheme, and also you can get them in teal, which is an all over sort of turquoisey type colour, including the frame. It's not for everybody's taste, that one, but I like this. I think this is the best one and the most authentic, and it feels really solid, and the build quality of Royal Enfield, I have to say, has come on leaps and bounds in the last few years. The first Royal Enfield that I had was an Interceptor 650 Chrome Mark II on a 22 plate, and I had that bike for over a year. Really enjoyed it, but I have to say, when I compare the fit and finish on that bike with this one, there is a significant evolution in relation to this bike, and to be fair also the Royal Enfield Super Meteor, which is another bike that I've owned for about a year. So yeah, I've already had two Royal Enfields sporting this 650cc air and oil cooled parallel twin engine, the Super Meteor and the Interceptor, and now I've got this the Royal Enfield Classic 650, and I have to say I'm the king of all things nostalgic. I'm a hopeless romantic when it comes to remembering those heady days back in the 60s and 70s, and this bike, of all the Royal Enfields, including the Classic 350, by a whisker, I would say, is the most redolent of the bikes of that era. Aye, so yeah, very solid, comfortable bike, but yeah, that 243 kilos of weight, well, first things first, I can easily flat foot this bike. It is quite wide at the waist, so your legs are a little bit splayed, but I've got a sort of 32 to 33 inch inseam, depending what time of year it is, and I can flat foot easily here, no problem at all. So the weight becomes less of an issue if you're concerned about that, because of course you get to a certain time of life, like me, where your muscles and your bones are not perhaps quite what they were 20, 30 years ago. That's just a fact of life. But the fact that you can get your feet planted firmly on the ground, or almost, is something that certainly mitigates any concerns over weight. The other thing is the centre of gravity feels quite low. I don't know where the centre of gravity is here. The actual engine sort of slap bang in the middle. It's not as if it's a low down boxer configuration, but it don't feel heavy. The bike does not feel heavy when it comes to low speed manoeuvring, so I don't think there's anything to worry about with this here bike. What I would say is, what I do with all my bikes is put crash protection on, and you can get these good quality Royal Enfield crash bars from Hitchcock's Motorcycles. That's www.hitchcocksmotorcycles.com. I do stacks and stacks of accessories for Royal Enfields and Triumphs and BSA for that matter, and others. And yeah, these are a must for me. Crash bars or crash bungs, or some form of protection just in case you do drop the bike, because that could get a bit expensive if you start taking out engine cases and panels and what have you. So yeah, the other thing about this bike is, if you like your comfort, it's incredibly comfortable. Now, I've heard some people say there's a horrible vibration sets in at 60 miles an hour. I've never experienced that. There is a bit of a buzz through the seat, but it's a modern classic. It's meant to have character and personality, and it's not at all a showstopper. This is probably one of the most comfortable bikes that I've ever owned, and I've no problem spending 2 or 3 hours in the saddle with this. As regards its performance, it's it's adequate. I mean, in relation to the Classic 350, you probably could be justified in claiming that its performance is, shall we say, a little bit lacklustre. But with this, it's adequate, and you should be able to execute most overtakes with this bike with a bit of planning, without any concerns. Plenty of power in reserve. Lots of mid-range power. So yeah, but just bikes like this just make you feel so good. You could get a Japanese mark with similar specifications to this motorcycle, and it probably would be more powerful, it'd be faster, it'd be lighter, it might handle better, but it wouldn't make you feel like a bike like this makes you feel, fantastic. So yeah, if the question is a bike like this suitable for moving up to or moving down to, depending what category you're in, that absolutely has to be answered in the affirmative. And pretty frugal too. Should get 175, 200 miles out of the 15 litre tank that this has, but I suppose if there is a downside with bikes like this, it's keeping them clean. Now, this bike ain't going out in winter. That's what the Yamaha FJR 1300's for. So, yeah, well, it will go out in winter on bone dry days, but, you know, once it gets damp and salty out there, no, this bike stays indoors. But for a, you know, as a fair weather riding machine most of the time, what a brilliant bit of kit. And I'd have no hesitation whatsoever in recommending this, particularly at under £7,000. You'll not get the equivalent Triumph for anything like that price, and the fit and finish and build quality of these here Royal Enfields now is every bit as good as Triumph. Aye, so what we'll do now is we'll have a little ride out. This is some footage I recorded earlier, as you'll gather. But I'll be giving you my thoughts actually out on the fly, riding this bike, what it feels like out in some beautiful countryside. So let's have a look at that, eh? Ooh-hoo-hoo. Out and about on another beautiful, very early autumn day on my Royal Enfield Classic 650. Cracking bike this. For a big heavy bike, would you believe, 243 kilos this. Handles like a dream, light as a feather on the move. Yes, the weight of this bike belies its appearance. Normally you'd look at a bike like this, I suspect, modern classic styled motorcycle, and think maybe 210 kilos, 215, 220 max. But no, the Classic 650 and the Super Meteor for that matter, and I think the Shotgun as well, all coming in at 243 kilos. Whereas the Interceptor and the Continental GT, the first two bikes from Royal Enfield to feature this 650cc 47 brake horsepower parallel twin, round about the just under 220 kilos, those two bikes. And the bulk of that heft is down to the quality of the components, and just about everything on this bike is top quality metal, not plastic. So your tank, headlight cowl, side panels, mudguards front and rear, all of good quality, quite heavy gauge metal. But it gives a very reassuring, solid feel to the bike. It is actually physically quite big for what it is, the Classic 650. So I suppose the question which arises is whether or not this bike is suitable, A, for older riders. I'd say it definitely is. But B, perhaps more specifically, older riders who are either new to motorcycling, come to it for the first time, or have a long history of riding motorcycles but have taken a substantial break, in some cases quite a few decades. Quite a few of you out there who've told me that you rode in your youth, in your teens and 20s, and now you're in your 60s, 70s or 80s, and you're thinking of taking it up again. And I say, bloody go for it. Tomorrow is never promised. Go for it. But is this bike suitable? Because 243 kilos is the same weight as a BMW GS. So big adventure bike territory. But what I would say is, I mean, there's that old cliche about, oh, bikes shed the weight when they're on the move, which they do, all of them. I used to have a Honda Goldwing GL 1800, bloody hell, that thing. Best part of half a ton. But once it were up and moving, very, very manoeuvrable indeed. So I think that's a given with just about any modern motorcycle. But what I would say about this is there's a feeling about the bike which suggests that the centre of gravity, whether deliberately or otherwise, is quite low on the bike, and therefore low speed manoeuvrability and manhandling of this bike doesn't feel like 243 kilos of wet weight. Plus the fact that it's quite a low seat height, and most people will be able to flat foot this bike. And I would say it absolutely should be on your shopping list. If you're new to motorcycling, or you've come back to it after a while and you're in your more mature years. Obviously I would actively encourage you, if you like the look of these bikes and the other Royal Enfields, to get yourselves to a dealer and get a test ride. And I will recommend two dealerships. Number one, Appleyard Motorcycles in Keighley, who I've had a very, very rewarding and productive working relationship with for the best part of 3 years now. Fantastic local dealership. Get up there and get yourself a test ride, not just on Royal Enfields but plenty of other makes as well. And also Eddie's Moto in Tadcaster. So Tadcaster in North Yorkshire, not far from York. Get yourself there. Whoa. And they're a Royal Enfield dealership and a BSA dealership as well. Yeah, so if you're a bit of a nostalgia bunny like me, and you're new to motorcycling in later life or coming back to it, then these modern classics have a lot of appeal, particularly if you're on a budget. I mean, the name that normally springs to mind when it comes to modern classic motorcycles, of course, is Triumph. But they are an expensive thing, Triumph. I mean, their equivalent of this, which will be, I suppose, the Bonneville T100. Oh, that's got a bigger engine with a bit more performance, but a lot more expensive than these bikes that come in on the road at less than £7,000. And the build quality is right up there now with these Royal Enfields. So yeah, give this bike a try. I think it ticks an awful lot of boxes if you're in either of those categories. Right, so there, my perspective on this here bike out and about in the Yorkshire countryside. What a perfect bike for that sort of riding. Love it. Yeah, you can accessorise these bikes, you know, and customise them to your heart's content. Metal tank, so it'll take a magnetic tank bag, no problem whatsoever. Or you can strap on one of these here ride iron weatherproof tail packs. 10% off from Ride Iron in the description below. 10% off Ride Iron products, clothes and bags and luggage like that. So you can stick luggage on, you could stick panniers on, you can stick a tank bag on. You can accessorise it how you want. I think the next thing on this bike is going to be a couple of chrome spotlights to go on the crash bars here. think that'll be good. I'll wire that into a thing I've got on this bike called the Heeltech Thunderbox, which ensures that power is only delivered to accessories once the engine is running. Great bit of kit. And I also have this bike equipped with video cameras front and rear, and a rear blind spot detection radar and tyre pressure monitoring, and that all speaks to the AOC TFT, which is not fitted to the bike at the moment, but it just slots in there as and when I need it, and that's a great bit of kit. And yeah, follow the link in the description below to get substantial discount on the AOC TFTs as well. So you can mix the old with the new. I know a lot of people think that when you put modern accessories like TFTs on a bike like this for your GPS navigation or whatever, that it spoils the look, and yeah, I would accept that to a certain degree, but as with all things in life, it's a question of balance, isn't it? This bike does come as standard with a Royal Enfield Tripper navigation, which is turn-by-turn navigation, which actually connects to the Royal Enfield app on your smartphone, so you don't have to have a full 5, 6, 7 whatever inch TFT for your sat nav. You can just rely on the turn-by-turn there. And other than that, yeah, I love this bike, very happy with it, and I'm just looking forward to getting some more miles on this bike as and when the weather permits, which for the last couple of weeks, after a very, very long dry summer with empty reservoirs, we've now had persistent rain every day for over a fortnight, I think. But it's set to change next week, so there'll be a chance to get this bike out and about. So yeah, eminently suitable for older riders, eminently suitable for new riders, and beautiful to look at. What's not to like, eh? Royal Enfield Classic 650. It's a winner.